I want to try and talk real quick about martial arts in the context that I'm presenting it here. So the people who don't know anything about me, haven't read my blog, will hopefully watch this first and understand the perspective that I'm speaking from. So first and foremost, martial arts to me is anything to do with fighting that is practiced and refined to the point of reaching a higher level with it. All right, so that means it encompasses everything from traditional arts all the way up to modern warfare, okay, and combatives. Um, so to me, if you practice shooting a pistol, let's say, to the point where you start to develop advanced techniques, that's a martial art. All right. Um, if you are a boxer, that's a martial art. Okay. If you are practicing traditional Chinese wushu, that also is a martial art. It's everything to do with fighting. Okay. Traditional, modern, whatever. They're all martial arts as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Secondly, the things that I'm presenting are based on my personal firsthand experience. All right? And again, if you haven't read my blog, you don't know anything about me, this can be a little difficult to get into, so I don't want to talk about all the nitty-gritty of it and whatnot, but let's just say that I've had a hard knock life, okay? And the things that I've learned out of necessity, not for the fun of it. I have had formal training, I have learned from actual teachers. But I've probably learned just as much, if not more, just out there in the world, on the streets, and in other situations that hopefully most of you are fortunate enough to never have to find yourself in. But the reason why I do what I do and teach what I teach is for those unexpected occasions when something like that might come up and catch you unprepared, like it did me so many times. So I'm teaching these things and presenting these things to hopefully give people a chance to be better prepared should the unexpected arise. Now, as I said, I'm teaching from my personal perspective, my firsthand experience, okay? So that means with regards to anything else that's out there, any more traditional forms, any other modern combatives, anybody else's fighting style, I'm not saying that mine is better. I'm not saying that mine is superior. I'm not saying that I'm the end-all, be-all grandmaster of anything, okay? All I know is what I've done and what's worked for me and what hasn't. I've learned as much from what hasn't as I have from what has. So, my goal here is to give people something to work with, and hopefully they'll get out there and actually practice it with a partner, somebody who knows what they're doing and knows how to receive technique and practice with another person. So, again, formal training is always ideal, okay? At least have some kind of foundation before you start trying something else. But, if you try something that I present and it doesn't work that well for you, that's fine, okay? If you already have some training or experience and the way that I present the technique, you see something better, that's great, okay? If there's something that I say doesn't work, just understand that means it doesn't work for me, all right? If it works for you, great. Just understand that you need to really get out there and practice it, okay? You need to have a committed partner who actually knows what they're doing so that when you're practicing technique, you're not fooled into thinking that the things that you're doing, okay, I do this and this is what happens, so that you're not fooled into thinking that that's really going to happen if you try to apply it in a real life situation. Because let me tell you, most people, if they're after your money, if they're after your property, if they're after your life, if they just want to hurt you, they're not going to act like the people do in the dojo. I guarantee it. Okay? So, even if you've practiced a technique in a controlled environment and it seems to work and you think that technique is always going to work, again, not saying that my stuff is the greatest, okay? All I'm saying is that I've actually suffered that experience, all right? I have taken those things that work in a formal setting, in a controlled environment, and taken it out into the world and found out, you know what? That really doesn't work that good, okay? So, and again, there could be other techniques and other ways of doing things that work even better than the things that I know. But I do what I know and I teach what I know because I know that it works. Um, so, again, just understand that this is the context, this is the perspective from which I'm speaking. Okay, anytime I present a technique, if it seems dumbed down, if it seems um, overly simplified, well, that's my approach. Okay, I think I believe in keeping things simple because in an adrenaline-fueled situation, in an actual defensive situation, first of all, most people are just going to break down and collapse anyway. If you haven't trained yourself to deal with advanced stress, then you can have all the techniques you want, you can have all the training you want, all that's going to go just right out the window as soon as you're actually terrified. Okay? So you need to train for that too, and I don't know that I'll ever be able to capture that in a video, but I'll certainly try if I can. Um, but at any rate, just know that some of these things that work in a formal setting, they don't necessarily work that way out there on the street. And then even if you do know a bunch of techniques, you're not necessarily going to remember that when you have to use it. So my approach is to keep things very simple so that the movements that you are practicing can be applied in a number of different ways in a number of different situations rather than having to have specific movements for specific things. You're dealing more with the things that are likely to come at you in ways that will be sufficient for any number of different attacks or approaches, okay? This way, when all of that advanced knowledge and fine motor skill goes out the window, you've still got the tools to work with to get yourself out of that situation as quickly as possible, okay? And that leads right on into my last point, and that's if the things that I'm doing seem oversimplified, it's because the techniques that I've practiced and developed and refined over the years, people think that I'm just talking crap or whatever, but I'm really not. The fact of the matter is, most fights only last a matter of seconds, minutes at best. And in a real life defensive situation, the longer that goes on, the more likely you are to get seriously hurt or killed. So when I say that my techniques, and when I get into showing combinations and weapon techniques or empty hand techniques, and you only see a handful of movements, they're designed, when I say that they're designed to neutralize the threat in 3 moves or less, that's what I mean. That is what they do, okay? Now, you can talk all the crap you want to about it, but I don't care, okay? I know it works because I've relied on it. And now understand when I talk about neutralizing a threat, um, I'm saying doing whatever has to be done to get you out of there alive, and hopefully in one piece or as close to one piece as you can be. So the sequence can be restarted. Okay, you have to take a dynamic approach to these things. If you begin a technique and then that gets interrupted, then you have to restart the technique or start a new technique, okay? So understand that the three moves or less thing, it is dynamic, but it's also intentionally simplified, intentionally direct, and frankly, intentionally brutal, okay? The best way to get yourself out of there is to destroy a limb, knock somebody out, or in worst case scenario, kill them, okay? Uh, just dropping somebody to the ground and running away doesn't always necessarily work because they can still get up and come after you. But if you drop somebody to the ground and you break their legs, well, then they're less likely to follow you, and then you can get to safety and call the cops, report the robbery, whatever it is that you have to do at that point. But get yourself out of there alive first. And because I have personally experienced these kinds of situations, understand that it's not a boast, okay? It's not a gimmick. I don't frankly like talking about this stuff because, as you might be able to tell, there's a lot of bad memories associated with it. But that's a whole other story, okay? My goal here is to present things to the people out there who may find themselves in these unfortunate situations and have need to call on some real practical skills to get themselves out of that situation. My goal here is to make sure that nobody else has to endure what I had to endure to learn what I've learned. So that's the context of what I'm presenting here. It's practical, reality-based, direct, intentionally brutal, non-traditional, and all-encompassing. So, please understand that I I truly do respect the sport fighters out there, the MMA and XMA people. Okay, I I truly do respect traditional arts, wushu, kung fu, um, aikido, jujitsu. Any of those things out there, things that I have trained in and learned from respected teachers. You know, I respect those things myself, and just know that when I take a technique and I alter it in the way that I do, it's to make it fit into real world situations better, in my experience, than the way that they are performed in the dojo. So anyway, that's the context of what I'm presenting here. I wanted to present this so that I don't have to try and give these kinds of backgrounds and these kinds of talks in the middle of demonstrating techniques and showing other actual things that you can apply and practice. Um, so, if you have watched my other videos, watch this one first. Come back and watch this again and understand what it is that I'm talking about and how I'm presenting it. Keep it in the proper context for me, okay? Because I don't really care to address or deal with the haters. I know what works for me, and if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Okay? If something else works better for you, that's fine. If you have different goals in your martial arts training, that's fine. All right? But I truly hope that some of the things that I present will be helpful to the people out there, whether in direct application or in comparison or contrast to other things they know, okay? So I don't really care how it's useful to you. I don't care if it's useful at all. If you watch something and you don't like it at all, just toss it out. Just forget about it. Learn something better. Learn something that works for you. But this is what works for me. And I know it works because I've done it. And I've lived it. And like I said, I'm presenting this so that hopefully somebody out there won't have to.